You know the feeling. You sit down to tackle a basic task, maybe reply to a few emails or read a book, and your brain feels incredibly heavy. You are completely exhausted. But the moment you lay in bed and pick up your phone, that exhaustion vanishes, and you suddenly have energy to scroll for 2 hours. It is easy to blame yourself and assume you've just become lazy, but what you are experiencing is a predictable biological response. Over time, your brain has been trained to expect constant, high-intensity dopamine from artificial sources. This diagram breaks down the psychological hook driving that behavior, the variable reward loop. You get a trigger, take an action like swiping, and get an unpredictable reward. Your brain never quite knows when the next interesting piece of content is coming. You are basically carrying a slot machine in your pocket. This creates something called the contrast effect. Imagine eating a bowl of fresh strawberries after weeks of a clean diet. They taste incredibly sweet, but if you drink highly concentrated soda every day, those exact same strawberries will taste entirely bland. Your brain treats stimulation exactly the same way. When you flood your nervous system with effortless digital novelty, your baseline reward threshold climbs. Ordinary, slow activities, like reading a chapter or finishing a work project, lose their emotional contrast. They actually feel painfully dull to complete. Trying to force yourself to focus through sheer willpower is a losing battle when you are fighting a dysregulated nervous system. Getting your attention back requires a structural, phased neurological reset. Forget the extreme 3-day monk-style isolation. The objective is simply reducing intense dopamine spikes to let your baseline stabilize. That starts in the very first hour of your day. Delaying high stimulation right after you wake up prevents an immediate dopamine crash. Keep your phone out of reach and give your mind time to wake up without screens. This graph illustrates exactly why replacing screen time with morning sunlight works. Notice how early light exposure aligns perfectly with a healthy release of serotonin. Getting natural light resets your internal clock, stabilizing mood and energy for the day. From there, you have to aggressively cut out short-form videos. Infinite scrolling forces your brain into rapid attention switching. By removing it, you are intentionally going to feel bored. We treat boredom like an emergency to be fixed, but it is actually a recovery state. Your brain needs empty space to clear out cognitive residue and process the information you consume. Letting yourself sit in silence is what gives your thoughts room to fully develop. Pushing through that initial discomfort gives your dopamine receptors the biological space they need to heal. Slowly, your baseline begins to drop back to normal levels. By weeks 2 and 3, your mental noise starts quieting down, but your cravings for that old stimulation will sharply increase. Your brain is actively searching for the novelty it's used to. If you try to rely on motivation to fight those cravings, you will fail. Motivation fluctuates based on sleep, stress, and emotions. It is completely unreliable as a long-term system. Instead, rely on environmental friction. As this scale shows, completing an action is inversely tied to friction. By systematically removing obstacles, like setting out gym clothes, friction drops and habit execution rises. Conversely, adding physical barriers crushes bad habits. Distraction becomes too hard. In this phase, prioritize consistency over intensity. Reading for 5 minutes every single day builds a habit that survives. Trying to read for 3 hours on day 1 usually leads to burnout. A micro-habit that stays alive is infinitely more valuable than an intense effort you abandon. Unbreakable consistency does not require superhuman discipline. It requires engineering a physical environment where taking the correct action requires zero emotional decision-making. By week 4, a distinct physiological shift happens. The withdrawal symptoms fade, the constant mental noise quiets down, and your ability to sit still and sustain your focus naturally returns. Those slow activities that felt impossible a month ago regain their emotional richness. You'll notice that reading feels engaging, taking a quiet walk feels restorative, and conversations hold your full attention. To maintain this new baseline, use visual tracking. Your brain responds aggressively to visible proof of progress. Seeing an unbroken chain of check marks provides concrete evidence that you are sticking to your goals. Acknowledging those small daily wins triggers a steady, healthy release of dopamine. It satisfies your brain's natural reward system without relying on destructive digital spikes. The real victory here is rewiring your neurological pathways to extract deep, genuine joy from delayed gratification, rather than constantly chasing instant novelty. Long-term repetition transforms these actions into a core part of your identity. Every time you execute a low-friction action instead of yielding to distraction, you gather undeniable evidence. You prove to yourself that you are capable of directing your own attention. That repeated evidence slowly overwrites your internal narrative. You stop seeing yourself as scattered or lazy. You adopt the identity of someone who is disciplined, focused, and reliable. This reset builds a life free from compulsiveness. In a world designed to hijack your mind, you retain the ability to direct your focus. Your brain is constantly adapting to whatever you feed it. By scaling down your expectations and starting this protocol today, you get to intentionally choose exactly what identity it adapts into.